Today's episode, we're talking about being consistent and being patient. So this is the two most common traits between most successful people. Whether you're an IT professional or if you're in another industry, if you have these two traits, you're most likely to achieve your long-term goals as well as build strong relationships. Now, if you don't have these two traits, don't worry because they can be developed over time with practice. So stay tuned and don't forget to click like, subscribe, and that notification bell. Welcome to Debt Free in IT. I'm your host, Mike. This podcast is for anyone who's looking to get into the IT industry, whether it's for a career change or you're just interested. I think you come to the right place. So today's video is all about being consistent and being patient. So when I refer to the word consistent, I'm pretty much talking about you applying that constant effort, that consistent effort, maintaining your habits, and also adhering to a particular standard. In short terms, I'm pretty much talking about you putting in that work every day. You know, you waking up, you know what you're trying to achieve. You have your goals. You putting in that work to work towards your goals. That's the main thing with being consistent. So that's going to build your consistency. And then also with patient is just you knowing that with you being consistent, it's not going to happen overnight. Most people, you know, you start learning something today, you want to be the best at it the next day. You know, you go to school for something, time you graduate, you know, we expect to get picked up and get that high paying job right after school. A lot of times it don't work that way. So it's all about being patient, knowing that your time will come. Like most people say, you got to trust the process. So as we talk about being consistent and being patient, one example I have that come to mind is Stephen King. So Stephen King, everybody know him for most of his movies, most of his books. But Stephen King, in one of his books, he stated that he emphasized writing every day to hone his craft. So you take that same persona as emphasizing where he was writing every day to hone his craft. You know, you take whatever you're trying to achieve, whatever you're trying to be good at, your goal, do a little bit every day to hone your craft. You know, whether it's networking, do a little bit of learning every day. If it's cybersecurity, do a little bit every day. If it's coding, do a little bit every day. And trust me, over time, that little bit of work you're putting in every day, it's going to add up to the large advantage over your competition. You know, some other examples, if you look at some great basketball players, Kobe Bryant, if anyone has looked at any of his bio topics or read any of his books, you see where he used to put in a lot of time at practice. You know, he once said that he would wake up early because he knew that his competition wasn't up. So a lot of that goes into being consistent and being patient and putting in that work. So being consistent and patient, you know, one way to look at it is like a muscle. So if you're one that's into working out, you know that you don't get the results unless you go to the gym every day and work that muscle. So consistent and being patient is just like a muscle. You got to work that muscle in order for that muscle to get stronger, then you can get better at it. So today I'm going to share some things that I do to try to help me with being more consistent because like I said, the patient, I think I'm pretty good with patience. I know that things don't really come fast, but the consistency is something that everybody has to work on. So it's one of the things where, you know, you start doing it, you know, you may not be able to do it every day. You miss one day, you know, don't get sad about it. Don't get bent out of shape. Just get back to it the next day and tackle your routine. And hopefully you'll continue on to build that effort of being more consistent. So the first thing I started trying to do, I roughly started this about 3 years ago, is I started setting clear goals every year. So every year I go over, usually I buy a new planner or I create a new planner in Notion. And I usually at the beginning of the year, I write my goals, whether it's professional or my personal goals. You know, I write these goals, that way I have it written down somewhere where I can look at it and it helps me to keep a target that I'm motivated on working towards. So roughly, like I said, about 3 years. And this year, no different. So in January, I'll probably do an episode on writing my goals and letting you know what all goals I have that I'm trying to achieve in the year of 2024. So the first thing I did that helps me out is to set those clear goals. And like I said, even though you set that goal, you may not be able to work towards it every day, but you know, you want to make sure that you don't totally lose sight of that goal for a whole year. You want to gradually create steps to start working towards that goal. But the first thing is, like I said, I started setting those clear goals to try to help me be more consistent and to obtain those goals. So the next thing I started doing to help me become more consistent is I started to break down my larger tasks. So if one of my goals was I'm studying for a particular certification, which that is one of my goals this year. I got a couple certifications I want to knock out. And from those plans, what I did, I broke down that goal into smaller, manageable steps. So that smaller, manageable step may be me trying to study for so many hours a week or trying to study for so many hours a day. I might not hit all those hours or all those days, but at least I have something I'm working towards that eventually I'll be ready to take the certification and ready to obtain that certification. So one of the next things I did is break down your goals into smaller, manageable steps. So whether it can be IT related or something personal, whatever it is, find a way to where, okay, this is the large goal and what are the steps to accomplish this large goal? So what steps I need to take to work towards this large goal? If you're finding value in this episode and you're listening via YouTube or your favorite podcasting app, please leave me a review or a comment. If you have a friend who needs to hear this, please share this episode with them. So the next thing I did to help me out at being more consistent is I started to try to establish a routine. So for the last couple of weeks now, I've been waking up 2 hours early. So right now my day is starting roughly at 5:00. I'm going on week 3 of doing that. And so far so good. It feels like I get more accomplished by waking up early when no one else is awake. And also it feels like I'm getting a jump on my competition. So right now I have tasks that I try to do every morning when I wake up at 5:00. And one of those main tasks is, like I said, I'm studying. So I use those hours to study because before I was trying to study in the afternoons when I got in from work and when I got in from going to the gym. And, most of the times I wouldn't feel up to it. I wouldn't feel up to it. You're drained after a long day. You done went and worked out. By the time you get home, you're ready to unwind. So I would hit it some days, but I couldn't form that consistency at it. But so far, it seems like me waking up 2 hours early, starting my day at 5, I've been able to study for at least an hour and a half to 2 hours every morning. So, and that's doing that from Monday through Friday. So 5 days a week, I'm waking up, getting in at least an hour and a half of studying. And I think that helps me out a lot with being more consistent at obtaining my goals. Once I get the certification, then I'll move on to my next goal that I'm working on, so and then that's going to help me to accomplish my long-term goals that I set with step 1. So establishing a routine is a good way to help you be more consistent. So one of the next things I try to incorporate that helps me with being more consistent, and also this also helps with being more patient, is practicing delayed gratification. So this is something that I'm always working towards, trying to get better at it. I can be good sometimes, but then sometimes I get off track. Now, if it's something related to the IT industry, I'm usually pretty good at that delayed gratification because I know and I've learned so far that nothing in the IT industry comes fast, especially when you're trying to learn something or you're trying to obtain something or you're trying to move up to that next level. So nothing really comes fast. So if it's related to the IT industry, I'm pretty confident with delaying the gratification. But when it comes to other things, like if you notice, the name of the channel is Debt Free in IT. So I'm working on financial things too. So a lot of times practicing delayed gratification, I'm horrible at it when it comes to finances. So I'm trying to find more ways to get better at that. As I find different ways that work for me, I'll be sure to try to share them with the channel, if that's something you're interested in. But trying to practice that delayed gratification, because at this point in my life, I'm at the point where if I see something in the store and I want it, most of the time I'm able to get it, or most of the time I'm able to find a way to get it if I really want it. And then I find that usually after I buy stuff, I don't really use it. I'll buy stuff and not really get the full extent of use from it. One thing that's probably big is video games. I guess it relates to when I was younger. I used to be real big on video games. Now I play every now and then, but I do find myself buying the newest games that come out and not really playing them that much, where I have the game, I might play it 1 or 2 times. Then after that, I won't play it again, especially if it's a game where it has a long story mode. I can't remember the last game I actually ended that had a story mode. So practicing delayed gratification is something that's going to help with patience. And like I said, this is something I'm putting in my routine and trying to be mindful of. And as I find different ways that help me out, I'll be sure to share them with you. So the last thing I've been doing to try to help me with being more consistent and being patient is changing my mindset. So you want to try to have or develop a growth mindset. That way you can see any kind of temporary setback or temporary loss as a learning experience or something in your learning process that you're going to get stronger from. So anytime you lose, anytime you fail an exam, you don't want to get down about it and get down in the drain about it. You want to view that as a learning process so you can come back and get stronger and conquer that exam. So one thing that I find that helps here is I listen to a lot of audio books. I read a lot of books also. A couple of books that helped me out is there's a book on Naval Ravikant. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that name right, but I'll try to list the book in the description. But it's a book on Naval Ravikant. Then also, I like the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I think that's a good book with changing your mindset. Has a lot of affirmations that you can use. And also it has an exercise portion to the book too that you can get to follow along with the book. So I think those are a couple of books that help open my eyes. But like I said, I've listened to a lot of audio books, and I also order a lot of physical books, and I also use the Kindle e-reader. So I have a lot of books that I have on my list, and then it's not all about just getting one book and just reading it top to bottom and finishing a lot of books within a year. Most of the time, most of the books I go through, read it for a while, I may switch to another book, then I may come back to it. So similar to you got your favorite TV shows that you watch here and there. It's the same way with me with books. I got my favorite books. I read a little bit out of them. If it's a real good one, then I'm going to read all the way through. Like the Think and Grow Rich, I read that all the way through. The book on Naval Ravikant, I read that all the way through. So just changing your mindset, viewing things in a different way where you can view any kind of failure as a learning experience is going to help you overall with being more consistent and being patient. Because if you lose on something, you're not going to just quit it altogether. You're going to come back, approach it, and try to conquer it. So all of these tips I think will help. It's been helping me a little bit so far. And like I said, as I discover more tips, I will be sure to share them with you. So that brings me to the end of this episode. Hopefully you found some value in this episode. If you're on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, you can follow me at Debt Free in IT. If you have any questions or comments, you can email me at debtfreeinit@gmail.com. Other than that, I'll see y'all next week. Peace.